Hello, my beautiful friends. Laurel here, and I am here to share with you about my upcoming class, The Power of Your Voice. I first offered this class earlier this year, and it's one of these classes that turned into a miracle. I thought I knew what this class was going to be about, but as we went through the class together, it's a 6-week class, so much was revealed. So the class really came through in a whoosh of inspiration from the angels, and the angels were very insistent that I name this the power of your voice, because that's the true intention about helping you come into your authentic voice. You don't have to know right now what you want to do with your voice. You might know, you don't have to know what your voice is going to bring about, but there is this beautiful life force within you. You have a lifetime of experience, of memories, of reflections, of wisdom, and you are this beautiful instrument. And when you start weaving this all together in a way that you can share it with others, miracles are born. One of the components that came out of the power of your voice that really touched my heart is the joy of oral storytelling. Now, I hadn't really realized it until I taught this class, but I do a lot of my teaching through storytelling. I share about experiences and I share about what I've learned from my experiences, and the stories are shared in such a way that they cultivate a sense of intimacy and other people can see themselves in what I'm sharing. And now I've gone on and created a podcast where I do even more oral storytelling from my life, and it's become this lovely instrument, this lovely legacy that I don't even know what'll happen to it, but we all have stories. So when I say to you, your life is filled with stories. Your life is filled with memories, reflections, wisdom, and love. And that it is within you to craft the beauty of your spirit in such a way that you can bring your voice into the world and bring more love, bring more inspiration, bring more empowerment. You don't even need to know what you want to do with your voice just yet, but you have this gorgeous voice, you have this gorgeous instrument. One of my favorite parts of the power of your voice that I didn't even know was going to happen was the storytelling we shared with each other. The angels would bring forward a prompt. It could be something super simple. What are some of your summer memories? What's your favorite time of year, and a story associated with it. And we would go around the circle and everybody would share a little snippet from their lives. And we started really falling in love with each other, because that's what happens when we share about our lives in a loving, sacred group where we are heart centered. So let me share with you what we're going to be doing in the next 6 weeks. We're going to start off with a foundational piece that is about saying yes to God and your calling. I affirm you are here as an inspirer, as a messenger, as someone who is here to bring more love onto this planet. You are here as a teacher, a healer, a way shower. I don't know which one of these words you resonate with, but that there is this light in you that you are seeking to share, and you may or may not know how you're going to share it yet. In week 2, we go into your authentic voice and your gifts. Listen, you are you, and you have been you your whole life. You have a way of telling a story. You have a way of holding in consciousness. You have a sense of humor. You have a perspective. You have a way of filtering through your experiences in a way that allows it to be shared with others. I'm not seeking to teach you how to tell a story the way I tell a story. I'm Laurel. This is what I do. I want to know what you do. I want to know who you are. I want to know how your instrument works. And this is what we're going to be holding space for in week 2. In week 3, we get into the really juicy, juicy stuff of storytelling for light bearers. I think sometimes when we think about storytelling, we think about the big, important stories of our lives, because we all have them. Those turning points, those moments when everything changed, when something dramatic happened. And it's not that these aren't good stories, but we all have thousands of stories, countless stories, One of the things that I share with my group is to look around the room you're in right now, whatever room you're in, or if you're in your car, look around and just pick something, pick an object, and just look at that object and see what your history with it is. How did it come to you? And is there a story there for you to share? And it's amazing how many things in our lives begin to weave a tapestry into the stories of our life. So in week 3, we're going to really start opening up who you are as a storyteller. And in week 4, we're going to continue that, the stories of your life. You know, you can look back at all different age stages, the different seasons of the year, the different memories you have, the different holidays, the different times you had a learning experience, and discover all of these gorgeous stories that already reside within you. Then in week 5, we're going to go into the art of teaching, which you may or may not be interested in, but I promise you, you have something to teach. Again, doesn't have to be the biggest, most important thing. Maybe you know how to make the best banana bread ever, and you could teach us how to make your banana bread. Maybe you know how to start heirloom tomatoes from seeds and what time of the year you start planting them for your area. It's like we all have so much wisdom, and there's this joy in sharing what we've learned with others. And so we're going to be talking about the art of teaching. And then in the final week, we're going to be talking about sharing your light and inspiration. So now that we have opened you up to who you are as a beautiful, authentic voice in this world, how are you guided to use your voice? And I really offer you to come into this without needing to know the answer right now. It's okay if you know for sure you want to write a book, you want to start a blog, you want to start a podcast. All of that is terrific. Yes, come in with those intentions. But maybe you're guided to take this class and you're not quite sure why. Let me share with you one of the whys for me that has surprised me. And this especially pertains to the podcast I'm doing right now. So I have this podcast, Sleepy Bedtime Blessings, and I share the angels, and then I tell a story. And sometimes I read something out of the public domain, and I also tell stories about my travels in my life. And they're not all the most important stories. They can be, I just finished an episode where I tell people about the different sofas I've owned because I had this delightful idea of sharing about where I was in my life when I got each one of my sofas and what each sofa represented about the time period of my life. And it's not that I think that everyone is going to be fascinated by my sofa insights, but I'm doing a sleep podcast. And so I'm not trying to keep people entertained for an hour, but in sharing these stories, this beautiful intimacy is created. But here's the other thing. This is the benefit that I might not ever even know has taken place. I feel like part of what I'm doing is I'm building a legacy. In our family, we are blessed to have a journal from my great-grandfather, Yehuda, that he wrote when he was living in Eastern Europe in the late 1800s. And he wrote it in Yiddish and in Hebrew, and at some point my sister got it translated. And this is one of our prized possessions in our family because it gives us very real insight to what his life was like. And I do a lot of genealogy, and I'm searching for information on people I've never met. And when I find something, a newspaper article, or something that tells me more about them than just their demographics and what is listed on the census, I feel such a deep sense of connection. And one of the things that I find I am getting so much fulfillment from is this idea that these stories that I'm telling, we live in a digital world now, and it's probably going to be out there forever. I think our digital footprint is, is pretty much permanent at this point. And I love the idea if 40 years from now or 50 years from now, when I've moved on to my next great adventure of the soul, maybe my great nieces or nephews or great nieces and nephews or cousins that aren't even, even born yet, might be looking for some family history and might have heard of this, aunt who did this weird stuff with angels. and and maybe they'll be really interested in the memories that I shared with them about what Passover was like as a child, or the early days of television, all of these things that they might not have access to. And so I just want to share this with you, that our lives are these beautiful tapestries of light. We've lived through so many different life stages, not only personal life stages, but cultural life stages. And maybe you're going to be bringing forth your stories and your wisdom for people who haven't even yet been born. Isn't that an amazing idea? Not that I think people 100 years from now are going to be wanting to search for what I have to say. I just mean it's going to be there. It's going to be there. Who knows what's going to happen with it? But when you tell a story and you record a story, whether it's a blog post, social media, a podcast, depending on how your podcast is hosted, whether you create a legacy book for your family, it exists. And it's a treasure. It becomes a treasure. And it's not because, as who I am right now, I think everyone should be fascinated about my sofas. I, I don't believe that that's true at all. But I also believe that there are these common threads that create intimacy between us. For instance, if I were to ask you, tell me about one of your sofas and how you chose it and the time of your life that you were in when you got it, you likely would begin to weave together a story about a piece of furniture. Sounds so innocuous, right? And it's not your most important story. If I were to ask you to put together the top 5 stories of your life, you probably would have very different stories to tell. But it's these beautiful, sweet moments. Like, did you ever have a lemonade stand when you were a kid? Who was your first pet? What was the first pet you ever adopted or got as an adult, and how did you find them? What is your favorite time of year? And has that been your favorite time of year your whole life? And as you contemplate these prompts, you get to remember and connect with more of who you are. And then if you share those stories with others, we get to know who you are too. And my experience is we start really falling in love with each other. Isn't that the best byproduct of whatever it is we're doing? So the power of your voice. You are a glorious, beautiful instrument of light. You are a divine being having a human experience, and your humanness and your divinity weave together as you share your stories and your wisdom, as you teach, as you inspire, as you empower. So if you join the class, you're going to be coming into a loving, sacred space where we are going to support you and cheer you on. It's really an extraordinary class. I am so looking forward to sharing it with you, and I really hope you'll join us. So I love you very much, and we'll talk soon. Thank you.